Hey everyone, welcome back to the dark side. I'm your host Sherry. We've got a case out of Michigan today. A 39-year-old loving dad disappears and was found brutally murdered. Police have a suspect. All the evidence pointed to this person who was obsessed with him. My sources are in the description area. This is episode 121, The Case of David Carter. This case happened in 2018. 2018 brought us the deaths of John McCain, George H.W. Bush, and Barbara Bush. Meghan Markle married Prince Harry. Sears filed for bankruptcy, and Toys R Us closed its doors for good. The Golden State Killer was captured after 32 years on the run. The treadmill celebrated its 200th anniversary. Fun fact is that it was originally a torture device, and it still is to me at least. And lastly, The Simpsons passed over 636 episodes, making it the longest running TV show. David Carter was born July 16, 1979. He graduated from Southwestern High School in 1997. David's family was very close-knit. His dad's name was Elton, and his mom's name is Willa Marie. David lived in Melvindale, Michigan. Melvindale is a suburb of Detroit. He works full-time at Magna Seating Plant, but he had a side project that he hoped to make his full-time job eventually. David had started a clothing line called Lavish Habits. According to their website, they are not just a clothing line, but a way of life. He started it in 2009, so at the time of this case, Lavish Habits had been around for 9 years. But one thing about David that everyone knew was that David loved his son. His son's name is DJ, and he is 16 years old. He and DJ's mom, Samia, were together for a number of years. They were very young when they had DJ. Eventually, they decided to split up, but always kept a good relationship with each other. Like, Samia was still welcome in the family, and she got along with everyone there. Samia and David raised DJ into a fine young man. DJ is a star football player in high school. David and his son DJ shared a love of all things sports. He attended every one of his son's games. He was a volunteer coach. Everything he did was for DJ. Samia and David officially split up in 2014, but remained close and cordial and co-parented DJ. For the next few years, David dates a lot of women, but he didn't have any serious relationships. He was too busy getting his clothing line off the ground and supporting his son with sports, volunteer coaching, and working a full-time regular job. He was a busy guy, but he handled everything well. I was so happy to learn that David had a podcast he did with one of his oldest friends. It's called 17th and Visker. There's only a handful of episodes on Apple Podcasts, but it's nice to hear him talk about sports, music, and a variety of topics. Just two friends chatting. The last episode he was on was just a week before our story. He was discussing a comedy show that he went to recently. He also talked about raising a teenage boy and some of the challenges, and I'm totally familiar with that. It's hard to listen to David laugh and talk knowing what is going to happen in just 1 week. In March of 2018, David attends a get-together and reconnects with an old friend from high school, a woman by the name of Tamara Williams. Tamara goes by Tammy, so you'll hear me refer to her as Tammy from here on out. This is his first serious relationship since things ended with Samia. Tammy has 2 children, a set of twins who are 18 years old. David has a teenage son as well, so that was something that they both could relate to. Tammy works as a phlebotomist at Detroit Medical Center. She's the person who draws your blood for tests. She also had a second job as a travel agent. By all accounts, she seemed like a good person with a good job and a stable life. But some in David's family were not too happy about this relationship. See, Tammy was one of those women who are extremely jealous. David's sister Tasia saw right through her. She didn't care for Tammy from the get-go, but she tolerated her for David's sake. But she did not like her whatsoever. As a side note, it's important to keep in mind that David and Tammy only dated for 6 or 7 months before he disappeared. They began dating in March of 2018. He disappeared in late September 2018. So David begins bringing Tammy around his family at parties and holidays. His family says that Tammy would follow him around and not leave his side. At first, I thought maybe that's an anxiety thing. She doesn't really know anyone and is just nervous. But they say Tammy kept her eyes on him the whole time. She had to know each person he was talking to and what they were talking about. If she saw him talking to one of his family members, laughing and joking, she would just stare them down with an annoyed look on her face. This is a close-knit family who loves one another a lot and they love to laugh, so having this jealous presence around had to be weird. Tammy would go to David's apartment and not leave, ever. It was hard for DJ to get any time with his dad away from Tammy when he came to visit. This had to be hard because DJ and David were so close. For some reason, David stayed with her, but people could tell he was beginning to grow tired of her shit. She had to be by his side at all times. He could go to work without her, and that's about it. Around 1 month before David was last seen, he went to the movies with a female cousin. Again, for emphasis, she is his cousin. She picked him up and they went to the movie. When she dropped him off afterwards, David sees that all 4 of his tires had been slashed. Tammy never owned up to doing it, but most people believe it was her because she was mad about him going somewhere without her. Plus, he's with another woman, even though she's his cousin. On Friday, September 28th, 2018, David attends his son's nighttime football game. The whole family was there. They are cheering on DJ, who is a star player. Samia, who is DJ's mom, was there, and she sat with the family as usual. David arrived with Tammy, and Tammy decided she didn't want to sit with everyone, so David sat with his family, and Tammy sat a few rows behind them. Lots of laughs and eating popcorn and cheering for DJ. Everyone was having a great time, except Tammy, who just sat by herself, fuming that David was having a good time with his family. Samia said that she turned around and Tammy was just staring daggers at her. That had to be creepy as hell. Samia said she looked like the devil just staring at her. A few asked David, "What's wrong with Tammy?" and he just kind of shrugs it off. David seems unfazed by Tammy's attitude and anger. He's just having a great time watching his son play football. Meanwhile, she's trying her best to make everyone uncomfortable. It's believed that later that night, when the game was over, David broke up with Tammy. We don't have confirmation that this is what happened, and we likely never will. But the next night, Saturday, September 29th, 2018, around 10:30 p.m., David gets a hold of his sister, Tasia. Tasia said that David seemed like he was in great spirits and nothing seemed wrong. She could tell Tammy wasn't in the room when he was talking to her. This may be a sign that he had broken up with Tammy. He asked Tasia to edit this video taken during the football game so he could post it on his Facebook. Then he tells her it's late and he has to be at work tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock a.m. for this scheduled overtime day. This was the last time anyone spoke to David. The next day, this is September 30th, 2018, David fails to show up at his job. David has been working at the Magna Seating plant in Highland Park, Michigan for many years. They manufacture automobile seats. He's never missed a day of work without notifying anyone. He is a hardworking, dependable employee who is known to work long hours and never complains. So on this morning, he was supposed to begin his shift at 5 o'clock a.m., but he doesn't show up. Now, this wasn't just any regular day of work. This was a special scheduled Sunday, and he would be earning triple time. For those not familiar, it means whatever his hourly rate of pay is, he would be earning 3 times that amount. No employee would want to miss this day. Monday morning comes around and he doesn't show up again. And then on Tuesday, he doesn't show up. His coworkers are now super worried because this is completely out of character. We learned that last Sunday afternoon, DJ was supposed to go to his dad's apartment and visit. He was going to spend the night there and then just go to school the next day from there. He has his own bedroom there and he does this all the time. But Samia gets a strange text from David's phone. The message reads that he is feeling sick and throwing up, and he tells her DJ can't come over today. DJ found this odd because his dad would never do that. If he was sick, David might tell him, hey, I can't hug you, or stay a few feet away, but he would never tell his son not to come over. That's the first red flag. DJ tries to call his dad's phone and he doesn't answer. This is another red flag. David would always answer if DJ called him, no matter if he was sick or not. DJ still has to go to his dad's apartment because he left his phone charger there, so he's going to go anyway. When DJ gets there, he sees Tammy in the parking lot. She's carrying a bag of trash to the dumpster. They acknowledged each other as he walked past her. Tammy throws the garbage in the dumpster and then takes off, sprinting back to the apartment. She runs past DJ and into the apartment. When DJ gets to the door, it's locked. DJ finds this odd because she saw him coming and she runs inside and locks the door, but DJ has a key, so he lets himself in. Tammy greets him at the door and she's not blocking him from entering, but is kind of rushing him, like, what do you want? DJ just walks on in past her. He sees his dad's bedroom door is closed. The bathroom door is closed as well. These doors are always open. The apartment looked messy, and this stands out to DJ because David is a neat freak. He's very clean. Everything is always neat and orderly. DJ grabs his charger out of his bedroom and tells Tammy he's going to pop into his dad's bedroom and say hi to his dad. Tammy tells him, no, don't go in there. She tells him David went out for a walk. Well, it's 50 degrees outside. This is late September in Detroit. Why on earth would David, who is so sick and bedridden that he can't even see his son, decide it's a good time to go for a walk? DJ thinks this isn't right, but he doesn't want to stay to investigate any further, which was a very smart thing to do in hindsight. What we have to remember is DJ is a teenager. He's still in high school. He may not be able to see all these true crime red flags, but he knew something was wrong and he needed to get out of there. Now we're back to Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018. This is 2 days since that weird encounter that DJ had at his dad's apartment. One of David's longtime co-workers reaches out to Tasia and asks if she's spoken to David. He's missed 3 days of work and this isn't like him. Tasia says, the last time I spoke to my brother was on Saturday night when he asked me to edit a video. Let me see what I can find out. Tasia tries calling David's phone, but it just goes to voicemail. She talks to Samia, and she tells her David had sent her a weird text saying he was sick and he was in bed and DJ can't come over. No one has heard from him in 3 days. Now, if he was really sick, he may need help if he's not been calling into work. They don't know what they're going to find when they get to his apartment. Tasia and her husband, Samia, and David's father, Elton, all head to David's apartment. When they get there, the first thing they notice is the door is unlocked. They say David wouldn't leave his apartment unlocked. No one does that. They go inside and see that it's messy. This stands out because, as I mentioned earlier, David was a neat freak. They found a bed sheet balled up in a closet, which Tasia said he would not do that. They can't find any sign of David in this apartment. There's no signs of a break-in, though. The door wasn't pried open, there wasn't any broken windows, but Tammy was the only person besides DJ who has a key. But what they found in David's bedroom made their hearts sink. They found a large blood stain under the bed. They could see the bed had been moved recently since there was indents in the carpet. They found a large blood stain on the mattress. They also found what appeared to be a bullet hole in the mattress. There was also a bullet hole in the closet door. David's father, Elton, is a military veteran and he knows what he's looking at. He tells everyone to leave the apartment and call the police. Tasia calls Tammy and asks, "Where is my brother?" Tammy says she last saw him Sunday night. He was sick and in bed, and she left later on that evening and went home. She hasn't heard from him. Tasia's not buying it. Tammy has been following David around every minute he wasn't at work for the last 6 months. They couldn't get rid of her. Now she's all nonchalant and, "Sorry, haven't seen him." The police arrive at David's apartment and it does appear to be a crime scene. The police are very quiet about whatever evidence they found, which is good at this point. They can't reveal a whole lot about what was found or they could blow their whole investigation. But lots of bags of evidence were removed from the home and David is now officially a missing person. The police get all the info they can from Elton about David. Elton sits with the police and gives them photos of David. They get all the pertinent info about him. This family isn't going to waste any time, and they begin searching as well. Meanwhile, DJ is in school, and his football coach pulls him to the side and asks if everything's okay. DJ's kind of blindsided, like, yeah, why? His coach said he just saw on Facebook that his Aunt Tasia has a missing person flyer for his dad. One person who is not helping with the search for David is Tammy. Remember, she was glued to his side for the last 6 months, and now she won't even help look for him. Meanwhile, an hour and a half south of Melvindale, Michigan, in a town called Findlay, Ohio, detectives there are working a different crime scene. Some Ohio Department of Transportation crews are cutting grass along Highway 235 and the northbound rest area of I-75. They spot something in the weeds and want a closer look. They go over and see it's some kind of sleeping bag, but it's got duct tape wrapped around certain parts. It appears really out of place and definitely crime-related. It looks small, like the body of a child or a young teenager could be inside. They call the police to come out and open this sleeping bag. When they get there, one of the officers peered into the bag and sees a lower torso and legs are inside. That's it. No other body parts, just a torso, lower torso, and legs. They look around the area and no other body parts are found. The legs and torso are taken in for an autopsy, and the medical examiner says that whoever did this did it with a kitchen knife. She also noted that the legs were of a black man who had a tattoo on his calf of a pit bull with red eyes. They look in the missing person database and see there is a 39-year-old man who was just reported missing yesterday, and he lives in Michigan an hour and a half away. He, too, has a tattoo on his calf of a pit bull with red eyes. A DNA test was conducted, and the remains were a match to David Carter. Elton is informed that his son's remains have been found, but they have to tell him that it wasn't a body that was found. We only found part of him. Can you imagine having to hear that about one of your loved ones? Elton has to tell the rest of his family. Not only is this family dealing with David being murdered, but to find out the brutality of it makes this whole awful situation even worse. This quickly went from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation. Tammy, very early on, was the prime suspect. She says she last saw him on Sunday night. He was sick in bed and she went home, and that's her story and she's sticking to it. On Friday, October 5th, this is just a few days after David's legs and lower torso were found, Tammy is arrested and taken into the police station. The reason was due to the strange behavior DJ said that she was displaying when he went to his dad's apartment. Also, her lack of caring that her boyfriend is missing. This is probable cause for an arrest. David's family, as sad and angry as they are relieved that Tammy has been arrested and will be held accountable for taking their loved one. It was a small glimmer of happiness in those very early days. They had just lost him the week before. That night, everyone went to DJ's football game, and they actually learned of her arrest while at the game. DJ went on to play the best game he'd ever had. His team ended up winning 64-0. DJ says he was doing moves he didn't even know he had in him. Unfortunately, this victory was short-lived. You guys are going to hate this. After Tammy's arrest, the police questioned her, hoping she would confess or tell them the whereabouts of the rest of David's body. They need something to lock her in, though. They need hard evidence that she was the one who took David's life and cut him up and disposed of his remains. Tammy refuses to admit that she was the killer. And after 72 hours, police were forced to release her. They kept her for as long as they legally were allowed to, and they didn't have anything else that would allow them to keep her. Not an old warrant or anything like that. Tammy had no criminal history. Tammy is now free. This is like a blow to David's family. At this time, she's now a person of interest until the police can find something solid to tie her to the crime. They need a smoking gun. Once they have that, they can arrest her again and this time charge her with murder. On October 8th, family and friends gather at the Melvindale practice field in McGinty Park for a vigil and a balloon release in honor of David's life. This is the same field where David coached football. Hundreds of folks came from all over the state of Michigan to honor David. Tasia told Fox 2 Detroit, "Oh my God, it's an amazing feeling. I knew my brother was loved, but I did not know it was like this." The next day, this is 2 days after Tammy was released and around 10 days since David was killed, a new clue pops up. I-75 in Ohio, that same highway where David's legs and lower torso were found. A duffel bag is sitting in the grass. Police were called to come check it out. Inside the duffel bag was a plastic grocery bag. Inside the grocery bag was David's head. So we've got his lower torso, his legs, and now his head. Now that the medical examiner has his head, she was able to determine the cause of death. She says David died from a single close contact gunshot wound right below his left ear. The bullet exited out of the top of his head. David died instantly. 6 days later, this is October 16th, 2018, that same I-75 highway in Ohio, 20 miles from where the sleeping bag was found, a suitcase was sitting in the grass. Inside the suitcase was David's upper torso, his arms, and his hands. They now have all the pieces of David. His family is finally able to hold a large funeral for him. They held his service at the old high school auditorium. What police believe happened is that David was alone asleep in his apartment after speaking to his sister on the phone, saying he had to be up early the next morning for work at 5 a.m. David goes to bed. Tammy let herself in that night. There was no evidence of defensive wounds on David's body. Because of this, they believe she stood over him while he was asleep on his right side and shot him below the left ear. Then she had to get rid of his body. Well, Tammy can't get a 6'4" tall man who is in good physical shape out of an apartment on the second or third floor, so they believe she cut him up using a kitchen knife and then carried him out to her car in bags. She texted DJ and Samia from David's phone and said DJ couldn't come over because he was sick. She brought him out to her car in pieces, drove an hour and a half to Ohio, and then disposed of him along I-75 highway in 3 different locations. This is an extremely brutal crime for a beginner. I can't imagine how sick you must be to sit there and cut up a human body. But again, they have no solid evidence to lock her up. But they will eventually, because in December 2018, 2 months later, a warrant was issued for Tammy's arrest. The warrant is for first-degree homicide, disinterring a dead body, and tampering with evidence. Everyone is happy. It's 5 days before Christmas. There's high fives. Let's go get her, boys, and lock her up. Except there's one issue. No one had seen Tammy in 2 months. The last sighting of Tammy was October 2018 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was 2 days after David's last set of remains were found. Tammy skipped town. Tammy had 18-year-old twins, and she left them and her mom and just headed away from Michigan. According to Andrew Battersby of the U.S. Marshals Task Force, she withdrew a large amount of cash and then she had dinner at a restaurant. She took a train to Chicago and then to Penn Station in New York City. She checked into the Neptune Hotel in Brooklyn under her real name, Tamara Williams. They have footage of her exiting this hotel on October 18, 2018, which was 2 months ago. It was the last sighting of her. This is so frustrating because they had her in custody but had to let her go after 72 hours. Now that they have solid evidence that ties her to the crime and she's nowhere to be found. Tammy had a side business as a travel agent, so she could be out of the country by now. Tammy is known to wear wigs and sometimes have her hair in braids as well, so she could change her appearance pretty quickly. The only thing really consistent is that she has a large tattoo on her left shoulder of a bouquet of roses. Of course, this is another thing David's family has to deal with. Tammy needs to be captured, tried for her actions, and then sent away to prison for the rest of her life, or whatever sentence a judge deems fit for her. Michigan doesn't have the death penalty. It's been abolished since 1963, so she would likely get life in prison. But Tammy is on the run. She's in hiding. A psychologist who was talking about this case to America's Most Wanted stated that she believes Tammy will kill again. She could be living with a new boyfriend. Maybe she'll get upset with him and do the same thing. Some man out there could be in real danger right now and not even know it. That's why it's important to share this story and Tammy's photo. She needs to pay for what she did to David. It's unfair that she's getting away with murder. Tammy's fingerprints are on file from her arrest when they had to let her go, so if she's ever arrested, even if she's using a fake name, it will come up that she is a fugitive for murder. The murder weapon was never recovered, so she is likely armed and dangerous. A big opinion by a lot of folks is that someone is helping Tammy. Someone or someones in her family are sending her money and keeping her from getting caught. I wonder if their phones and internet activity could be monitored. I'm unsure what that process would entail, like how much probable cause would detectives need. The reason so many people believe that she is being helped is because in 2021, Tammy's mother, Verdine, who works as the treasurer for the Detroit Fire Union, was charged with embezzling money from the Detroit Firefighters Association. $200,000. Yeah, she stole from firefighters. She's a real piece of work, especially considering she was with the fire department for 29 years. She allegedly spent the money on lavish trips and all kinds of stuff. $26,000 alone was allegedly spent on cruises for herself. Police believe some of this money went to Tammy. David's dad, Elton, publicly pleaded with Tammy to turn herself in. He pleaded with anyone helping her to turn her in. In better news, DJ plays college football now for Eastern Michigan. DJ has his own video game character in a new 2025 college football game. He also took over his dad's business, Lavish Habits. That website's still going strong today, and I know his dad would be so proud of him. Sadly, in January 2020, just 15 months after David's passing, his mother, Willa Marie, passed away at age 65. She had been diagnosed with cancer just 6 days before David's murder. Her family says that she couldn't bring herself out of the darkness after the loss of her son. Today in 2024, Tammy is in the top 15 of the U.S. Marshals list of most wanted fugitives. There's currently a $25,000 reward for her capture. The U.S. Marshals believe with her medical background, she could be working at a medical clinic somewhere, likely out of the country. Tammy has lots of connections all over the place. She's also a member of the Order of the Eastern Star. This is like a spin-off of the Freemasons. It's open to both men and women. Someone in that organization could be helping her too. There's always the possibility that Tammy could be dead at this point as well. My heart goes out to David and his family. He was a good man who had a lot going for him. He didn't deserve to die at age 39, especially in such a brutal fashion. A 16-year-old boy lost his father. He has gone on to do great things like graduate high school and play college football, and his dad deserves to be a part of that. I hope Tammy is captured soon and this family can get some sleep at night. I often wonder what would have happened if DJ would have walked into one of those rooms. Remember, his father's bedroom and bathroom door were closed when he got there. They usually stay open. Would Tammy have harmed him as well? I'm just glad he got out of there. Tammy is 44 years old today in 2024. She is 5 foot 5 inches tall and 190 pounds around the time she went on the run. She has been in hiding since 2018 and is considered armed and dangerous. David's last post on Facebook was the night before he died. He said, quote, "I guess I'm a little late for National Sons Day, but better late than never, David Carter Jr. Through the good, the bad, the ups and downs, you know Pops will always have your back." Rest in peace to David Carter. That's it for this week, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care, and much love to you all. Intro music is Feral Angel Waltz, which is composed by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons. All his music can be found on his website, incompetech.com.